welcome to another video of me just yapping. And also, welcome to my cave. If you didn't know, my persona here is supposed to be a bat, but that's besides the point. I'm Val, you can call me Vals, no difference whatsoever. Before I start this video, I just wanted to say thank you so much for 30 subscribers! Didn't expect to hit 30 already, especially since in my last video, I was just thanking you guys for 11 subscribers. I just wanted to add, thank you guys for 11 subscribers. So this is like a little crazy to me. And so also the fact that like 30 of you legitimately wanted to subscribe to me, which is great, and thank you so much. I hope you stick around as I talk about the random subjects I talk about and also me doing art sometimes. Anyways, as you can tell by the title, I'm giving you all some art advice. I think. Look, okay, let me just say this. I'm not the best artist around here. I would say I'm more on the decent side. And I would just like to share some of my wisdom with any of the youngsters who may be learning how to draw. Or want to learn at least. TBH, this video is pretty basic and very self-explanatory. I'm just going to drill a bunch of stuff in your head and how you should be approaching art in a beginner way. Before I start, let me just put this little thing. Disclaimer! Look, I'm still a young artist and very much still learning how to draw and do other things. So whatever I may say in this video, whether you take it seriously or not, just take everything I say with a pinch of salt. This is strictly my opinion of what I would consider good advice for those who genuinely want to learn, or even those who are in the process of learning how to draw or do art in general. So yeah, there's my little disclaimer. So whatever I say, you can't hold against me. Also, just wanted to add, sorry that it seems like I'm speed running this video. I was basing it off a script since I knew I wouldn't be able to say all the stuff that I say in this video like from my head. So I'm sorry this is like me basically speed running the whole entire video, but I hope you still enjoy it nonetheless. For this first portion of this video, I wanted to talk about like some basic advice. Like stuff that people will usually say to you already if you're starting out on art. So I just want to share my basic advice to you. One of the first things I wanted to talk about is stop taking terrible advice from other artists. Now I know what you're thinking. Vals, what do you mean terrible advice? There is so much like terrible advice from like different artists or big artists in general, or people who legitimately don't know what the hell they're talking about. One of the things I would consider to be bad advice is the whole draw every day advice. This results in really bad burnout, and the fact is, what the hell are you drawing? They don't tell you what to do, they just tell you to draw every day. Draw with like a goal / thing to learn to draw, or just for fun. Focus on studies if you're aiming to improve, and don't draw every day since it can just make you burn out so bad that you won't want to even touch it anymore, especially at a beginner level. You're already going through so much at a beginner level because you're already uncomfortable with the thought of starting something new. So just drawing every day with no like information at all of what to do, you're already going to be frustrated enough. So please, for the love of God, don't listen to that advice of just drawing every day. Now, this next one's not much of advice, but I've seen a lot of people say this for some reason, and I genuinely just want to talk about it, especially to those who are new or just starting out, you know? And it's, you're not good if you use references. This is just stupid. Use references. They help a lot, especially to understand / study poses or whatever you are studying. Like, I don't expect you to know how to draw someone doing a backflip from memory. Use references. You're still a good artist. Everyone uses that. Don't push yourself. Look, this is very iffy. From what I read about people's different opinions, some say that if you only draw when you feel like it, you may lose yourself. Others say if you do, you'll just result in burnout. But this is completely up to you in my opinion. What I think is, yes, pushing yourself to learn new things is good, especially things that make you feel uncomfortable to draw. But there is also doing too much pushing to the point of burnout. So it just completely depends on the person. All I'm saying is that there is a limit on how much you can push yourself before it becomes too much. Now to some actual advice. One of the first things I do want to talk about is patience. The one thing I will say in this section is, where are we going and what's the rush? Look, art takes a lot of time and there's no reason to rush into it or just rush in general. Take your time and stop putting a time limit on something that you want to learn. You aren't going to make the best piece of art known to man in one day. It takes time. How do you think some of those big artists you look up to got to where they are today? They took their time and so should you. Okay, so this one is weird, but this is something I even struggle with. Being uncomfortable with new stuff is completely normal and unfortunately something none of us can avoid. But you need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You can't learn and grow if you stay in the same place. Or you might just end up like me. I'm someone who hates change, and unfortunately, as many years passed of me already drawing, I'm just now learning how to draw from different angles, poses, anatomy, and even the most treacherous thing that a lot of artists don't seem to want to do is hands. All I'm saying is get uncomfortable and learn. You will not have any growth if you don't. If you're happy with where you are right now, then that's okay. I'm just mainly speaking on those who are wanting to learn or beginner artists in general. This is very self-explanatory. Art is very subjective. What you may find pretty, others won't. An unfortunate thing. You can't expect everyone to love your art, but at the end of the day, it's your art, and you shouldn't depend on others' approval. Is it nice? Yeah, totally. But as long as you're happy and enjoy what you're doing and where you are art-wise, that's all that should matter. And I know that's a little cheesy to say, but this is like me genuinely trying to push like in your head that you don't need to depend on other people's approval if your art is considered good or not. If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it's this. You do not need expensive art supplies to be a good artist. The quality of your art will be better, sure, but it will still be the same as it was before you made an expensive purchase. Expensive supplies don't automatically make you better at drawing, it just improves the quality. You can make art with whatever you have, cheap or expensive. That's why there was also that huge trend that happened a couple years back of like making art with cheap art supplies. Because the whole point of that was to spread the message that you can still make good art, even if like the art supplies aren't like a fucking $1 million. We've all been here once in our lives when we see someone younger than us being much more successful and having much more talent than us. You have to understand that everyone goes through their own journey. Some learn slower than others, and that's okay. You do you and just focus on your own thing and know that age is completely irrelevant when it comes to art, and what matters is what you create. Now, I know that also sounds extremely cheesy, but this is to like set in your head that no matter what age you're starting art, you're just doing art because you want to do it for fun and it's a way for you to express yourself. Don't think age is like a factor to why you shouldn't do art. You shouldn't look at it as, oh, I'm 30 years old. Like, what's the point of me starting art now? Like, there's so many like much more talented young people out there. That shouldn't matter. Just start it. Age is completely irrelevant. Everyone has their own journey. Everyone takes like as many years or hours or months or whatever to get to the point they are right now. All that matters is your journey and your art that you create. Nothing more. Oh, burnout. Such an interesting topic. Burnout happens whether we want it to or not. Unfortunately, it's something we can't avoid as artists. It happens to anyone that's creative in general. When that happens, I would just recommend taking a break. If you keep pushing yourself even during the burnout, you might just make yourself hate your passion of drawing and make it seem more like a chore than something you do for fun. And before someone asks me this, I personally don't know what people do that are actually in like that actually do art as work. I mean, like they have to like a 9 to 5 basically. I don't know what they do, okay? And I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there of people that do art as like their actual job. I'm sure they made videos out there about the whole subject of burnout. So don't depend on me for that because I don't do art for my job. I just do it for something fun. Editor's note here. I have a friend who is becoming a graphic designer, and so basically art is her whole life. So I asked her how she deals with burnout as someone that's doing this as a career. And her answer is, we just cry. So if you were curious what people who do art as a career do when they suffer through burnout, they just cry it out while doing work. So there you go. For any of you that were curious, I guess. Okay, now that I got some basic advice out of the way, let's actually talk about art advice. Now, for this portion of the video, I'll talk more about what to do drawing-wise and what can be useful for your journey of learning how to draw. And maybe some of this stuff can make you feel less ashamed of what you may already be doing. Tutorials are great. Watch them to learn how to do certain things. Everyone watches tutorials, and you should look into specific ones to the style you may be looking into or the specific study you may be practicing. There are free tutorials on YouTube for everything. Do not, and I mean do not, pay for those courses from artists who simply want to profit from you. You have access to actual helpful tips and tutorials on YouTube, and may I add, it's free. I used tutorials when I was younger, and I still use many of the tips they shared in my current art. Inspo, reference, tracing, and scaling. Look, this is all in one section for a reason. There are already tons of videos of tracing and scaling and all that jazz. Plus, they all fall under the same category. I just won't be going into too much detail on them, and I'm just gonna put them briefly. References are great, but do keep in mind if you are heavily referencing to be sure to be crediting the original model or artist if you are planning to post it online. Okay. Now this one's a little controversial. Tracing. This is very iffy, and there's always been a huge debate about it, but there's a good and bad side to tracing. The good side is, tracing can help you with understanding a pose, and is very helpful when it comes to learning. The bad side is pretty obvious. Tracing something and claiming it as your own just makes you an ass than anything else, and ties into the whole thing of stealing. In conclusion, for learning purposes, tracing is fine, but don't do it all the time. Okay, everyone hold on to their horses and cowboy hats because this is a big one. And this is a big one that I feel like a lot of people should talk more about when it comes to giving actual art advice. But I'm sure there's plenty of videos out there of people actually talking about it, and I'm just being dramatic, which is fundamentals. For those who are starting out, I would highly recommend looking at and practicing the fundamentals of art, such as form, anatomy, perspective, composition, and value in light. Fundamentals are important because they're essentially the building blocks of any artwork. Once you start getting comfortable in each fundamental and have the knowledge, the rest of your art journey should be pretty easy. But try to understand that it will take a lot of time to get comfortable and used to the many fundamentals of art. So take your time! There are plenty of videos on YouTube that explain some fundamentals and go into much more detail on them, so I would recommend checking those out to help you get started. Art style. This one is extremely tricky, and there have been plenty of videos addressing of how to gain your art style or what you should do to get your art style, but this is what I will say. Experiment with different styles. Look at different inspos on Pinterest and just explore. If you try locking yourself into one specific style, you might lose a passion or be very frustrated at yourself for not being able to recreate the style. If you experiment and get more comfortable with drawing, sooner or later you'll start developing your own style. Sometimes it may be similar to the one you might be replicating, or even a mix of many media you may have consumed during your art journey. Don't think you have to only stick to one style your whole life. Experiment and just have fun with it. And whatever just comes naturally will be your unique style. Art is supposed to be fun and a way to express yourself, so do it. Look, I know this video might not provide the best advice, or you might find what I shared to be completely useless, but I'm just speaking my opinion and giving what I would consider the best advice I could give to anyone who is beginning to draw / still learning. Being a beginner artist is already rough enough, especially in this generation and whatever the art community on TikTok has become. Don't listen to those that genuinely bully you on social media for your art, and don't let it be the reason why you stop creating to begin with. There's no reason for anyone to be shaming beginner artists or those who are still learning. Everyone was there at one point. They just seem to forget that for some reason. That's all I got for you today. Sorry if it was some sappy shit. I just genuinely feel passionate about helping new artists because I feel like art is such a great medium that anyone can use to express themselves and shouldn't be shamed for how they draw or how they use art in general. You know, unless it's problematic, but I'm not discussing that here. Thanks for watching. Now, before I end this video, there's just one more thing I just want to tell you guys.
Smash that subscribe button, like this video, share it with your whole entire fucking family, and I hope you have a beautiful fucking day!
Okay, bye, love you. Mwah.